With the dawning of each experience as we pass along the pathway of life, we must learn to live more consciously, more understandingly, if we are to get along in a better way in this world. As we survey world civilizations and explore the deep nooks of past civilizations, we have a very large outlook before us. We find that man is both an individual and a gregarious animal. Every human being is endowed with the desire for an individual life and a social life. He has individualistic tendencies as well as tendencies to form into clans. Even in the earliest savages, there was the idea of gathering together as a group. In ordinary life, too much social interaction does not give much happiness, and neither does too much individual exclusiveness. God wants us to maintain evenness in balancing our individual and our social life. The individualistic and collective principles in man come from God. He is very individualistic. Apart from the stars and the universes and the thoughts of men, beyond all sensations and dreams, transcending all perceptions of matter, the Lord exists by himself, alone, having no other company, complete within himself, satisfied in his own self. Where no sun or moon or fire shines, that is my supreme abode. It is said that the omnipotent God so loves his eternal silence that he does not want even a little ray of light or tremor of vibration to disturb him there. In that region of darkless dark and soundless sound, the uncreated nothingness, the absolute essence of everything, he exists by himself, all-sufficient unto himself. No doubt it is easy for him to get along with himself. He has no one with whom he can disagree. But at the same time, one part of God is not secluded at all. He is collectively active in the flowers and in the birds and fishes and in all forms of life on this planet, in the millions of human beings and in every creature. And he is very busy in the electromagnetic laws of the universe, and in the copious laws he has set forth to govern the sphere of manifestation. So in this sense, he is not individualistic, and he has to get along with the diversity in his creation, this vast variety in which he himself is contradicting himself. He is the uncreated and the created, the Brahma of which the Hindu sings. In the ultimate perception, there is no difference at all amongst God's diverse creations, though there seems to be contrary dissimilarity, as between man and beast and tiger and its prey. Still God is able to get along with all experiences in the material, delusive panorama of this world. He is harmony and eclectic activity as well as harmony within himself as an individual. He wants us, similarly, to learn to get along with our own self and with others. To be able to get along with yourself is marvelous. Most people know how difficult it is to get along with others. But have you ever given thought to getting along with yourself? That is most difficult. Separate your psychological perceptions from yourself, and you will see how you are constantly fighting with yourself. You do not like anyone or anything if you do not like yourself. If one does not get along with himself, how could he be expected to get along with others? Getting along with self is the most important point in getting along in this world. So first and foremost, you must learn truly to appreciate and love yourself. But when I say love yourself, I do not mean love for your egotism, selfishness, and self-interest. It is instinct, of course, in man to save himself in the face of danger. Self-preservation is the law of life. Love yourself because you are a child of God with divine potentials. It is your love and concern for this potential self that inspires and inspirits unfoldment of your true soul nature. You cannot get away from yourself, even if you fly away from civilization to the farthest corner of the earth. That is why God wants you to correct yourself where you are. Some people live in the worst circumstances and are wonderful in their ability to get along with themselves. Others have every opportunity in the world, but they cannot get along with themselves. They are constantly at war within. You must not wait for your circumstances to change. If you wait for that, you will never make any progress. Say to yourself, I am all right in spite of my environment. If I want to meditate, I will find a way to meditate in spite of my surroundings. If I want to study to improve my mind, I will do so regardless of outer conditions. I knew a remarkable man in India who was versed in 18 languages, yet he was so poor that he couldn't even afford a lamp to read by. So he used to go to the street corner and read under the streetlight. Where there is a will, there is a way. There is no excuse that you cannot correct yourself despite any outer conditions. You are the only one who knows whether you can get along with yourself, for you hide yourself very cleverly from others. That is why it is up to you to strive every day to find out whether you are at peace with yourself. Master Swami Teshwar used to say, "Learn to behave." In that lies great inner peace and happiness. When you learn to get along with yourself, you will know how to get along with everybody. That is what I learned. That is what Jesus demonstrated. He could say, "Father, forgive them," for he had found that peace within himself. There are several practices that are necessary in order to know how to get along with yourself. 1. Anyone who is extremely emotional or is restless with bad habits can never get along with himself. If your conscience tells you all the time that you are doing wrong, how on earth can you expect to get along with yourself? And when you meet others, you will find that they will not extend their trust and their goodwill toward you, because a person who goes against his conscience mistrusts himself, and that reflects in his character. Man's conscience speaks to him all the time and is constantly prodding him to change and to behave rightly. It is true, of course, that you can blunt your conscience, but it will not remain blunt forever. If nothing else, the laws of one's country will disturb the complacency of those whose conscience becomes completely dulled through misuse of free will. Criminals find out that their conscienceless acts did not pay. So always listen to your conscience, the voice of your inner self. It is there to help you get along with yourself. Secondly, evenness of mind must be practiced. No matter what experiences you face in life, do so with an even mind. Evenness of mind, evenness of disposition brings great happiness not only to yourself but to others. That does not mean you should be spineless or without enthusiasm. It means you should practice calmness. It is all right to enjoy the good things of this world, but do not become overexcited by them. And when sorrows come, accept them manfully, and think how to overcome them instead of permitting yourself to become distressed and restless, losing your calmness within. Some people are always restless. Only a few are most of the time calm and even-minded regardless of circumstances. But evenness must remain constant, that it may serve as a foundation of your existence. That is what Swami Shankara taught. Be thou always of even mind, if thou dost want the even-minded Lord to adorn the altar of your soul. Without that even-mindedness, one can never find God. Just stop and think how well Jesus Christ got along with himself. That is how he could get along so well with the diversity in the multitudes. He behaved toward everyone and under all circumstances with the same evenness of mind, even during his greatest trial of crucifixion. The relativities of existence, birth and death, pleasure and pain, have been overcome, even here in this world, by those of fixed equal-mindedness. Thereby are they enthroned in spirit. Verily, the taintless, the perfectly balanced spirit. We should study the lives of truly great ones. When we understand them, we will know how similarly to pattern our lives. The next point in getting along with yourself is control of your thoughts. Learn to practice deep thinking. Learn the art of concentration, so that when you put your mind on a particular thought, your attention does not become restless, hopping from one idea to another. Most people live on the surface of life, but it is by deep-sea diving in the ocean of thought that you receive the pearls of knowledge. Deep thinkers are happy people because they can get away mentally from the disturbances of their environment. The average person has no escape. He is always living on the surface like the fish that is easily caught by the fisherman. By practice, cultivate the habit of deep thinking. Take a difficult problem and ponder it. Go as deep into thought about that subject as you can. If you go deep enough, a solution will be forthcoming, and in that inner depth, a sense of peace will come over your soul. Why? Because in every deep thinking state is a corridor to the kingdom of God. Without deep thinking, concentration of the mind, one will never find the way to God. Even profound thinkers who do not know God are nevertheless happy within themselves because they have made a deep inroad into intuitive perception and to God without consciously doing so. Those who are capable of thinking very deeply about different subjects, yet do not consciously connect with God, may fail in divine perception because they became hidebound in their thought. No one can find God without consciously seeking Him. But deep thinkers are at least nearer to God than those who live superficially in ignorance. There is no sin greater than ignorance. That is why I say, do not pass your time in idleness. Do something useful in life, something worthwhile, constructive, that will deepen and broaden your consciousness, and you will be nearer to God. Those who think deeply get along better with themselves and with others. Because of their ability to explore the depths of thought, they know how to act when confronted with a difficult circumstance. Deep thinking is a mental preparedness by which you can surmount circumstances in a divine way. Along with deep thinking, you have to develop common sense, that is, sense that is common to all, an intuitive sense. Well, my husband was very sick, so I began to think very deeply about it. And by the time I had concluded my deep thinking and decided to call the doctor, my husband had passed on. That kind of thinking is not helpful. One must use common sense. It is essential that you know how to put your deep thinking into action, and no one can teach you common sense. It is an intuitive feeling that readily tells you what to do. Common sense is present in every soul, but very few people know how to develop their ability to tap that source of discrimination. You need to cultivate that power by which you can find out the right course of action in any given situation. Lastly, in order to get along with yourself, you must control desires. So-called merriment means burning all candles at once. No one has to chastise such people. They punish themselves by their overindulgences, which create nervousness and anger and moods. They have no joy in anything because they are controlled by their insatiable senses. The true master is one who controls his senses. When he says no to temptations, he means no. And when he says yes to right action, he means yes. Never kill time. It is too valuable to waste on useless things. I never learned to play cards or checkers or any such thing because I saw they are just a means of killing time. Life is too precious to squander. God consciousness has to be cultivated. Always be busy with God, then nothing and nobody will be able to distract you. How wonderful it is to lead a simple life. A life of inner contentment is a heaven you know not. Even if I go to the movies once in a while to get away from organizational demands, I am not entranced with the scenes on the screen, but rather with God consciousness. I am not seeing the movies, but the cosmic movies within. The consummate purpose of life is to find God, so do not waste your time in uselessness. While learning to get along with yourself, you should also practice the art of getting along with others, a great but difficult art. Begin in your own home with the persons with whom you live. There is a saying, a street angel and a house devil. If you learn to get along with those in your own home, you will be better equipped to get along with the rest of the world. You need to correct your own behavior and attitude. If you instead try to escape from those who rile you, your temper and passions will nevertheless cling to you. Wherever you go, you will continue to have difficulties. Why not cure your difficulties here and now? First of all, whenever you have problems with others, look to yourself. Blame yourself if that is where the fault lies. Do deep thinking and see if your behavior is right. See if you deserve the criticism of others. And remember, example speaks louder than words. If you want to change someone else, change yourself first. If you want to teach someone else to get along with others, set the example. Getting along with human beings means getting along with God, provided those human beings are not behaving unjustly toward you. Jesus was unjustly persecuted. But if persons justly criticize you, that means you have yet to make greater effort to correct yourself. Getting along with people does not mean agreeing with everybody, and it does not mean that you should sacrifice your ideals for their sake. That is not the kind of getting along that I mean. But you can maintain your ideals without being offensive. In fact, from that standpoint, Jesus Christ did not get along with many during his time. But he maintained his ideals without being repugnant. He certainly got along with himself, for he knew that what he was doing was right. And he said, "To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth." So above everything else, please God and live up to your own ideals. Never compromise your ideals, and never harbor an ulterior motive. If you can live loving God and meaning no harm to anyone, and still the world wants to hurt you, that is all right. It is better to be cursed by the whole world and be a favorite child of God than to be loved by all and forsaken by God. Getting along with others means getting along first with your conscience and with God, and then with people. That realization is one of the great blessings I received from my master. There is nothing in the world that measures up to the joy that I received from his company. When you have the security of true joy, you have everything. You do not need the world. During my earliest years in this country, I was once invited as a guest of honor to a large party. I didn't know what an elite cocktail party was, so I didn't know what I was getting into. But I never before or after attended such a gathering. Everyone was drinking heavily. Late into the evening, they asked me to speak, so I gave them a talk that I think they never forgot. I did not speak in anger, but in truth. Is this your natural way of life? Are you really happy embalming yourself in drink? This is not fun, getting dead drunk and talking in an evil way. What is this? I know many of those present made an inner promise never to go to such parties again. I was not mad, for I kept myself inwardly aloof. In that way, I can get along fine with others. I do not have to follow their ways. Rather, I would try in a kind way to influence them to follow my ways. With God in your breast, joy in your heart, wisdom in your mind, and all the power of heaven in your soul, you are in the joy of the eternal Father. That is the power which I see and feel all the time. Behave in a truthful way that is not hurtful to others. If you cannot get along with others because of your ideals, then it is best to get away from those naysayers. If your goodness becomes a torture to others, stay away from them. You should not feel you have to beat others over the head with a club to make them follow. If they do not want to follow you, let them go their way. But always be willing to share your understanding with those who are seeking and who are thirsty for the nectar of the soul. Make them happy. Develop the habit of being pleasant. I do not mean that you should smile always like a Cheshire cat. Such a smile means nothing. It is shallow. But a smile that registers deep in the heart and expresses itself in the face is marvelous. It comes from being sincere. Sometimes those who are much in the public smile in a lifeless, practiced way, while inside they are thinking of something else. There is nothing inside to make their smile real, but the smile that reflects from the soul is very attractive. Few people can resist an individual with such a sincere smile. There are some persons who are chronic sourpusses, and many are hard-boiled, rigid in their reactions toward others. How to get along with such persons? First, make sure that no matter what the provocation, nobody will be able to get you mad. That is one of the primary steps in learning how to get along with others. No matter what happens, let no one get your goat. It is difficult for those who have no self-control, but it is the easiest thing to do if you make up your mind. Do not boast that you never get angry, just practice it to the best of your ability. If you proclaim it, people have a tendency to take advantage of you. And do not be outwardly docile while seething dangerously inside. Under no circumstances let anyone make you angry enough to do something that you will rue later on. Most people who lose their temper regret afterward what they have done. Affirm with conviction, I have perfect possession of my emotions. Persons who do not have their emotions under control are their own worst enemies. Every unfulfilled desire rouses their ire. When anyone can make you mad, it is because some desire within you has been contradicted. Otherwise, no one could make you angry. In your efforts to get along with others, do not be a doormat, or everyone will want to run your life for you. If they cannot dominate you, they get angry, and if you listen to them and do their bidding, you become spineless. Then how are you to behave? When you find resistance to your ideals, the best way is to just remain quiet but firm. Say nothing. Do not get angry. Verbal punch after punch you may get, but do not permit it to provoke you. Refuse to quarrel. Eventually, those persons will understand that you do not mean to anger them, but at the same time, you have your own good reasons for not wanting to do what they request of you. When people lose their tempers, get away from them until they are calmer. If you can get together and talk out your problems, it is wonderful. Communication is vital. But if anyone just wants to fight, simply say, I am going to take a little walk. Then return and be prepared to discuss. But if the person still wants to fight, go out again and take a longer walk. Refuse to fight. No one can quarrel with you if you non-cooperate. Never supply more fuel to anyone's anger. The angry person is satisfied only if he can make you angry too. I can work with anyone, though I don't care to be with those who don't know how to live in harmony. When someone has made up his mind to win a point, let him have the victory. Great men seldom argue. They smile and say, I don't think so, but they don't fight. Learn to use tact with people. That does not mean you should be a hypocrite. It means consideration of others. You are not a stone. You are a thinking, conscious being, and you do not want to treat others as though they were unfeeling stones. Do not openly resist the desires of others. The person who always busies himself with the affairs of others is both a cause and an object of difficulties. If a person can take it, and if it will do some good, then speak out. But sometimes the recipient does not like it, and will defiantly do exactly what you don't want him to do. When you can get along with others, you are like a fragrant flower. As you pass by a garden, sometimes you smell the fragrance of roses or orange blossoms, and you think, oh, how sweet they are. That is how great souls are. When you come into their company, the perfume of their lives touches you. It is a fragrance that uplifts your soul. But when you are around a foul odor, you do not like to remain there. When someone has a malodorous temperament of anger and quarrelsomeness, you don't want to be around that person. Those who are always inharmonious are of that type. They are like human skunks exuding an obnoxious odor. In a religious organization, two classes of people are clearly distinguishable: those who are trying to change themselves for the better, and those who are quarrelsome and start trouble by trying to change everybody but themselves. The latter seem to take pleasure in trying to make others uncomfortable. I remember in the early days in Boston, we were planning a banquet. Two middle-aged ladies were real crackerjacks in gossiping. Unsuspectingly, I had given them charge of the banquet, but someone said to me, "Beware of these two. They have caused much trouble for other teachers." That put me on guard to watch their behavior. As banquet arrangements proceeded, my secretary put place cards on the head table designating certain persons to sit there. These two ladies started fireworks. Why should these persons be on the platform and not us? To restore peace, these guests were seated down at the other tables. One day, these two ladies started disrupting organizational plans of the center. Their intention was to be the leaders of the work in Boston. So I called them aside. "Do you accept me as your spiritual teacher?" They said yes. I said, "Will you listen to me?" They said, "Absolutely." They thought I was going to place them in positions of importance. After a little while, I saw them separately, and I told each of them what I described as a secret and asked them to promise they would not divulge that information. They agreed. After a few days, each one had secretly told many others what I had told her. When they realized what was happening, a feud broke out between the two of them. I then distanced myself from them, but they sought me out. I was in the Boston Plaza Hotel. They called me on the phone and wanted to see and talk with me. I said, "I will see you provided you speak very calmly. The minute you raise your voices, I will leave." When I came down to the lobby, they were trying hard to control themselves. They said, "What is the idea of telling the secret to each of us?" I answered, "To show you that you cannot be trusted, that you are disloyal, and that you love to fight and to gossip. By this means I have convinced you about your wrong behavior. I told you something that was of no importance, just to see if you were capable of keeping a confidence, or if you would give in to your habit of stirring up trouble with your gossiping. The fault did not lie in the teachers who have come to this town and whom you have criticized so freely. The fault is in your own natures. I asked one thing of you, and you could not keep your word. Do you realize how your reputation makes you disliked in this city? Now the trouble you give to others has come back to hurt only you. If you cannot keep one promise of confidence given to your spiritual teacher, how can you expect others to have confidence in you? If you don't keep faith with me, you won't keep faith with anybody else. Are you truly at peace and happy within your own souls? I was sincere with them, but I gave them that day a very honest and earnest appraisal of their behavior. After doing so, I said, "Now, I am not going to shut you out of my classes, but you must promise me that you will not talk against anyone during the class series. Do not think of yourselves as teachers. As long as there is prideful desire to teach, you are not qualified to teach. First, you yourself must live it. If you do that, others will follow your example." And do you know that hour after hour they attended the classes and didn't once disturb anyone? They were the meekest of students. You see, I got along with them all right because I did not get angry. I used tact to bring them to the sudden realization of their mental weaknesses. But getting along with others cannot be done only by tact. It also requires example, calmness, evenness of mind, sincerity, joy, doing everything in an honorable way, not clinging to pride and egotism, and not governing your actions by what everybody else does, but doing those things that please God. Find your peace by meditating regularly and deeply, and you will be surprised to see how your relationships with others improve. Also develop your power of usefulness. That is love. Think about that. Learn to be serviceful to others, useful with positive thoughts, useful with your speech, useful with constructive suggestions. But do not give advice where it is not wanted. If your suggestions are unwelcome, have the control to remain silent. And when sometimes you do good to others and then can no longer help them in a material way, if they become inimical because they continue to expect from you, never mind. Go on doing what is right. Do the best you can and forget it. Be sincere with everyone. You can get along with most people if you flatter them, but that destroys the character of both the giver and the receiver. Praise is not harmful if it is sincerely meant. Everyone likes encouragement, and to be praised for one's good qualities and actions if that recognition is sincere. But when someone gives flattery in order to get something in return, that is wrong. If my love is not sufficient, I shall not bribe anybody with flattery. There was once a wealthy student from Milwaukee, a Mr. R, who came to stay at Mount Washington. This was during a difficult early period when we had very little money to support the work. He came to learn, but soon developed the habit of trying to teach everybody else instead. I called him to my study and said, "I prohibit you from giving any more money to the organization. I gave you my love, but you want flattery from me. You came here to learn, but now you want to teach us." He became angry. I said, "Don't think you have fooled me because I have remained quiet. All you need is a good dose of flattery, and then you think you are all right. But I will not give you flattery." Tears came in his eyes, and he said, "But everything here will go to pieces. The magazine will be stopped, and Mount Washington will not last unless you take money from me." He was angry for a long time, predicting that everything would fall apart without him. But I said, "Maybe not." Then I cautioned him, "Beware, you are making dire predictions, but I say unto you that if you go on in this way, all your money will be taken away from you." He left Mount Washington and later joined another society. They flattered him and gave him an important position, and then divested him of all his money. He had to go back to where he started. What would we have been if we had accepted money from that man? I would have had to close my eyes to his evil ways, and this I could never have done. Right after that experience, one of the greatest friends and devotees came into the organization. That was St. Lin. I have seen great things in my life. Everything that you give up for God, He knows. What is it if by flattery you gain friends and followers if God is not there? You are forsaken by the world for insincerity and forsaken by God as well, going at death into the depths of the astral world without any assurance from your conscience, nor from God, nor from man. Relationships that are based on an exchange of sincerity and respect are wonderful. Do not sully friendship by becoming too familiar with anyone. Familiarity breeds contempt. No one has been able to be over-familiar with me. Disrespect and taking someone for granted severely jeopardize a relationship. Whenever you mix with people, mix respectfully with love and sincerity. When you feel like being alone, get away from people. Be by yourself. Do not keep company with people unless you are prepared to give them your full attention. In that regard, when I am with others, I mix with concentration, with attention, with love. But when I am alone with my God. Do not make a habit of associating with people uselessly. When it is worthwhile, it is all right. I like to be with people in worthwhile activities and uplifting exchanges of friendship, but not in anything that is a source of inharmony. Keep your distance from whatever or whoever creates inharmony. I wish these truths were taught in childhood. They should be dinned into the ears of your children. Lessons learned early in life make lasting impressions. In my own childhood, one day I made up my mind that I would never get angry, and I have never broken that vow. Sometimes I have talked sharply, but inwardly I am never angry with anyone. I don't like to speak forcefully, but I do it sometimes because an individual may better remember what is said to him with firmness. I have great peace within myself. If you are a man of peace, no one can steal that tranquility from you unless you yourself carelessly relinquish it. From that inner center of peace, I teach with the principle of love and kindness. It is the better way. If that is misunderstood by anyone, I leave that person alone. I remain silent. You come here for pure truth that flows from my soul. And if even one person receives this truth and is changed, I shall have done more good than if thousands came rocking with emotion. I seek nothing of you but your joy in God, and you seek nothing from me but God's wisdom and joy. A spiritual man will get along with everybody, even if they may not always get along with him, because he will understand and sympathize and try to bring them to God. Jesus said, "Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away." Prepare yourselves now to be instruments of truth. I used to tell the students in my school in India that they must not only speak truth and expect forgiveness, but that they must speak truth and willingly accept any unpleasant consequences. Make the effort to get along with others through kindness, love, and compassion. But whenever untruth comes, stand firmly against it. Never cooperate with untruth. My master was a great soul. Such souls you will read about when I have completed my book. He never brought his ideals down to the level of his disciples. He was firm and uncompromising, but he used to tell me that my ways were softer than his. I understood him, and what he did for me, no words of this world can ever possibly describe. I would rather be trampled by his scoldings than be enthroned in a castle without God. I always told him my foremost craving was to get along with God. Every day you should ask yourself, have I gotten along with God? Do you know what are the signs that you have not gotten along with God? They are restlessness, unhappiness, and an uneasy conscience. But if you are getting along with God, your conscience is at rest, and you are drunk with inner happiness and contentment all the time. I have no other desire but to be in that happiness, and to give those living waters of joy to whoever comes to me. The more you get along with God, the more you will be able to get along with the world. The world may forsake you for a little while, but it will come back to you. And when you are gone from this earth, those who had turned away will say, "He has left footprints, following which we too will reach our home of eternal contentment." So strive always to keep your thoughts tuned to the absolute. There is no happiness in any pursuit like the happiness you find in seeking God. Surround yourself with good thoughts, that those thoughts may help you to be closer to God. This truth has come here to last forever because it has been transplanted into some great souls. What we build in the souls of men is eternal. It is to your advantage to follow this truth, for you will see in it such freedom that no tongue can describe. Spiritual things are intangible in the beginning, but they become more tangible than all things else as you go along the path. I am interested in your soul, and if you try to develop yourself, you will find here an infinite treasure of truth. If you study these teachings, you will know that they are not the result of imagination. They are the direct perception of truth, which has come through me and my great gurus. And remember to spread this message wherever you go. The greatest way that you can spread it is by your example, and then help others with good thoughts of truth. Those who will persevere to the end will find freedom in God. To meet God at the end of the trail is a great consolation. It does not matter whether we go through trials or disappointments in life, if at last we all meet Him. We belong to Him, and in Him we will find the fulfillment of all our dreams. So we must never be discouraged, no matter how life treats us. Repeat with me, Lord, thy joy alone is mine, that only is mine. Now let us pray together. Heavenly Father, teach me how to get along with thee, and with thine understanding may I get along with all. Bless me that wherever I am, I may exemplify thy message. Teach me to do every day, with sincerity and strict adherence to thy laws, the things that please thee and that help others with thy peace, harmony, and understanding. Om. Peace. Amen.